I think it's now 6 o'clock, and as agreed that the program will start by this time, we need to get going. Understand that other colleagues would have some other commitments as well. So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ntwanano Matebula. I will be your program director for this service. A special welcome and greeting to the Nemutanzhela family. Again, the South African Association of Public Administration and Management, SAAPAM, the University of Venda. Also, again, a special welcome to the University of Limpopo, the Tshwane University of Technology, the Northwest University, University of South Africa. A special greeting to the former colleagues of the late Nemutanzhela Lucas Tshiphiri, his former students, and the entire academic fraternity, compatriots and friends, and South Africans across the globe, as advised by Professor Mlepo that this service is being streamed. We have gathered here in honor of a spirit of a giant, whom some of us have learned a lot, and in fact are his products, Tshiphiri Lucas Nemutanzhela. I would like each one of us to observe a moment of silence in his honor. Thank you. May his soul rest in peace. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's go on to the program of tonight. We will have tributes pouring from various people. We will start by tributes from his former students. We know that Mr. Tshiphiri Lucas Nemutanzhela has taught quite a number of students, and some of those that have gathered here in his honor. So we will have, firstly, Mr. Mielan Kwenika, preceded by Penelope Molebogeng. Thirdly, Dipuo Chauke, that he or she will be followed by Dr. Asani Zita, and lastly, Ms. Koketsoluope. I will not get in between the speakers. Please ensure that once the speaker has spoken and you are supposed to speak after him or her, you ascend to the podium. And the Executive Director of SAAPAM, Professor John Mlepo, has let me know that you are free to switch on your cameras, and we proceed as such. Please ensure that you don't go beyond the 5 minutes that is allocated. I therefore take this opportunity to welcome Mr. Lucas Tshiphiri Nemutanzhela's former students in that order. Is Mr. Mielan Kwenika? here? Can anyone confirm for me?
Yes, it's here.
Mr. Melanie Nkunika, please proceed.
Good evening, everyone who's in attendance. Are you able to hear me? Can you hear me all?
We
Yes,
can
you
hear
can
you.
proceed.
Pardon, can you hear me all? Good evening.
Yes, we can hear you. Please switch on your camera.
Okay, no, thank you very much. You might not see me because this part of the country where I am in Zanini, there is close reduction. So I'm in the darkness. Are we clear?
Please proceed, Mr. Nkunika.
Yes, as I've indicated, that you might not see me, my camera is on due to load reduction, but however, I thank the opportunity to be given the slot to present on the life and times of Mr. Tshiphiri Nemutanzhela, who indeed was our lecturer, and I'm also one of his former students, and in fact, a very former proud student. It is an honor, or it was an honor, to have been part of one of Mr. Lucas Nemutanzhela's students. We have learned a lot, especially in the discipline of public administration, and also that one now is attached to the practice of local government. So his contribution, or rather his teaching, have contributed much in practicing one, gathering skills, the knowledge, but also the relevance and this cause of local government in our country. One of the key teachings that I remember, it was when he was teaching us the phenomenon of devolution of powers and decentralization of power. So that is where one also gained much interest in public administration and local government. Just as indicated that now I'm attached to local government. So these teachings are actually now alive to me. I am actually practicing it in reality and also through implementation of what he taught us. And in terms of his personality, Mr. Nemutanzhela was a very unique and a kind person. And his uniqueness, to some extent, you would think that there was just something in him. There was no way that you would not like him. Even if you were in class, one was not necessarily talkative, but through his uniqueness and his kindness, they will make you to engage, even if you don't want to participate. And he also had the skill of lecturing. So hence I'm saying that this teaching would make you to understand local government. I remember the first day when we went to his class, I think it was in 2012, he asked all of us about 3 questions as to how many of you registered this course or this discipline through the will. How many of you registered this course through default? By asking us this question, he wanted to understand his class in terms of the perspective and the will of public administration as a discipline. And he also wanted to find a way to make his students to be attached to public administration and local government, but also us to understand the relevance of public administration and local government in society. And I remember Mr. Nemutanzhela, you always use an example that without local government, there is no government. Local government is at the center of service delivery in communities. In order for social economic challenges to be addressed. We need the local government to be effective and efficient in society in order to address issues of unemployment and poverty. So those were some of these contributions, and some of us we saw it fit to also set up a pursue our studies within the field of public administration, inspired by these teachings and attributions, and the fact that he was also an analyst. So that also motivated us that it is also possible to grow within the field of public administration, that one will also find himself as a specialist in local government, and of which indeed it is happening. His teachings, his contributions are now coming into life. It is happening, and we are thankful to be one of these products. And I think also, not necessarily myself, many others are very much thankful to have been his product. So I'm also thankful for this online lecturer, or rather to say memorial, as some of us who could not necessarily attend. But I also believe that maybe this online at some point or in future, it will also be key or vital if a physical sitting can also be arranged wherein we will also honor our former and great icon, Nemutanzhela, in a physical sitting, where we will also be able to present various perspectives. So because of time, I will now pause here and allow also other fellow speakers and students to continue. I thank you.
Ms. Molebokeng Penelope.
Okay. Good evening, colleagues. Thank you for this opportunity to be here today and actually speak of this giant that God had borrowed us and he has taken from us. I'd love to speak of this man as the father that I had go University of Limpopo. When I came back to TUF in 2011, fresh from work, I came with the intention that I wanted to just pass my degree, finish and leave. And I remember the first few conversations we have before and my purpose for coming back and what I wanted to achieve. And then he said to me, it's fine, I'll hold your hand through this journey and we'll walk it together. And till this day, even my family at home, they knew the father role that he played in my 4 years of being Kotefu. And he was always there. When my marks would drop, he would call me to his office and say, what's going on? What's happening? Are you fine? Is everything okay? And I would just pull my socks up again and say, I asked him to hold my hand and he's basically doing that. So I just need to also do my part. Your 60s, but he would minus something else just because you were disobedient at some point in his class. And I was privileged enough when I did my honors. He was then my supervisor. At first, I was not sure what exactly I wanted to do my research on. And we pondered on a lot of topics. And then he said to me, where lies your passion? Because in research, you need to find something that you would want to carry through until the end of your career. So go and find something that you're really passionate about and you would not mind going deep down into the streets and actually doing the research on that. And he was one great supervisor because towards the end of my honors, I went back to ABSA, but I told him, I said to him, they've hired me back And it's just that we are left with a few classes. What do I do? He said, no, I'm going to help you. Just make sure that you put aside some time after class, after work, and we do this together. And by the grace of God, you know, here we are, honor students. Some, they went beyond masters, all through his help. And beyond him being my lecturer, he was like a father, like I had mentioned before. When I graduated in 2014, he's actually one of the, actually the only lecturer that came to my graduation lunch. I had invited him, and then he said, yes, I'm definitely going to be there. He was there. He met my parents. And since then, we've actually kept contact. When he left University of Limpopo, there was a small lunch that we organized with our lecturer. And when he moved back home, I was staying in Makado. So we kept contact through and through. He was showing, he was planting some spinach, and he would show me and say, this is what I've had now, this is what came out. And when I went into my business doing chicken farming, we spoke, and then he would say, no, do this, don't do this. And he's just been that father. I remember the last conversation was actually going through our WhatsApps the other day, because this was a shock. I never knew if he wasn't well. It was only a few years ago, yes, he told me, but I thought he'd picked up, he's fine now. On the 28th, he sent me a message. He said, I'm in Cape Town. It's my last graduation. I spoke the day, with him and with a graduate, and it really motivated me to say, if this man still sends me such pictures, he's basically saying, don't give up, you can still push. Because he's been asking me, when are you doing your masters? And I said, I'm just doing short courses that are in line with my employment now, but I'll definitely come back and register my masters. And he's just been, yeah. I told my parents at home about his passing. My mother said, sure, he was one person that my mother knew I would listen to him. When things were not going right, I'd be like, let me speak to Nemukiko. And he really had an impact. I prayed to God that God receives him well, and he really becomes an angel to us all. Thank you very much, Chintwana.
Thank you, Ms. Mulu. I think we're not doing well on time. Let's please respect that 5-minute allocation. An applause, it means your time has expired. So let's please respect that. Dipuo.
You will pardon me on that. So greetings, I won't say colleagues, but greetings, my leaders. Thank you very much to be afforded this opportunity to talk about Mr. Nemutanzhela. I'm from the class of 2016. We would often call him the father that who art in K block. Mr. Nemutanzhela would often say, power corrupts, but absolute power corrupts absolutely. I did not understand that code up until I joined the local government. That's when I understood, and it's now that it's late, I cannot go back to him and say, Father, I now understand what you were saying. He would often say that, why are you late in class? And when one explains that, sir, I overslept, I couldn't wake up early, I did not hear my alarm, and you'd say that only a person who has been bitten by a tsetse fly can sleep that long. He was just a man of honor, a man of integrity. He was full of jokes and he was full of life. When his phone often rang in class, the ringtone was Vatangela, Lucas. And you'd say that the person who's calling now is the central government, referring to the wife. That's when we know that the father is full of love. That's when we know that the father is a man of honor and integrity. And when one of us in class was just being rebellious, Mr. Nemutanzhela would say that, what's wrong with you? You know, I'm protecting you against yourself. because you are a danger to yourself. He often said that our class was full of dangerous people. So Mr. Nemutanzhela, he was one person that one would have learned a lot. I was so privileged to be taught by this man. During 2016, there was a saga in Pretoria, I think it's Pretoria High School, where there was an issue with girls, black girls with black hair and what. But what he would often give an example with me in class, because I had a whole lot of hair and an afro, a big afro hair. He would say that, you see this one, this Chauke lady, she would really qualify in that Pretoria High School. She must go and join the match. So we would often laugh in class because he made sure that we are learning and we are also laughing. And he made sure that we adapt, because the transition from high school to tertiary is a very different ball game. Most of us were struggling to adjust, but Mr. Nemutanzhela made sure. One of my classmates, he once gave us an assignment which was 20 pages. So one of my classmates did not finish typing, so she opted to handwrite. So when she submitted, Mr. Nemutanzhela, he just looked at her and said, "Is this handwritten or typed?" When she replied, and then he said, "These people are dangerous." That's when we realized that our class is full of dangerous people. And he would often ask questions. And if one does not obey or does not adhere to his instruction, he would say that my patience is not likely going to last long with you. So we knew that we have a father in him. We knew that we have a man of honor. And then he said, "You know, I have been here for the past 27 years with no promotion." And we would laugh in class that this man has been here and with no promotion. And now that we are in the corporate field, we can now feel the pain that Mr. Nemu was saying, that you will work hard and put more effort with no promotion. So it's when now that I realized that most of the things he was saying, they're coming into reality or practicality of it. And then he would often tell us that what you hear, you will forget. What you see, you will remember, but not grasp. And it was when we realized that we need to write down our notes, because we will always go back and refer to them. And with all that being said, I would like to send only a few verses to the family at large, to say that Revelation 21 verse 4, it says that he will wipe every tear from the eyes. And Psalm 34 verse 18, it says that the Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. By the Lengamuraro, Bo Lucas Nemutanzhela, the Korewa.
Good afternoon or good evening, colleagues, to our program director and to the family of Nemutanzhela. I'm Hassan Zita. I will not waste much time. I will just stand on the protocol that have already been established. I met Nemutanzhela, it was on 2014. He was my lecturer, and he was very unique in his style. I remember at one time we were sitting in the classroom and there were few people participating, and he will use his own way to send the message across to all of us. And he said, "All of you who are not participating on my class, I've seen you when you're in my class, you are quiet. When you're outside, you can talk. Remember this, there comes a time where you will be lacking 2 marks to pass either your test or your examination. And the only instrument that I will have to bail you, it's my memory. I have to file in, page in, out, and check, who is this one? If I don't see your face in my file, in my brain, it means you are among those who are not participating. That's how you're gonna miss your 2 marks. Don't ask what happened on the next class when we're entering the class, because already he told us silently so that we need to actively participate. Nemutanzhela has been a source of inspiration to most of us in class, And some of us I was already working at the time, and it was evening classes that I was attending. But each time we're in class, he will make sure that he inspire us, he motivate us. And what I could say about Nemutanzhela is, he was a symbol of greatness. He represented greatness, for he was great. And in conclusion, I'll leave you with a quote, Program Director and the Family, by Ernest Ajemang Yeboah, who says, when you are called for a great duty because you have been given a great ability, do your very best to leave a great footprint in whatever way. This, by so saying, colleagues, some of us, through his inspiration, we have managed to grow, not ending at honors level where we met him, but we proceeded through his guidance. And this means that whatever he did, he instilled on us that courage, that zeal, that we need to push up our sleeves and we need to proceed through our academic journey. And I will say to the family of Nemutanzhela, may you find solace on the word of God. And I know he has been with you and he will continue to be with you as we celebrate the great baobab tree that has befallen on us. Chairperson or Program Director, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Ms. Luben Koketsu.
Thank you, Dr. Matebula. Can you see me?
Yes, you may proceed, ma'am.
Thank you. Greetings to everyone in the house, the bereaved family, colleagues, former students. It's becoming too much again. I thought we were on a healing process, but then now when we have to talk about this philanthropist, a giant, our lecturer, a father to Unarine and Mudinda, a grandfather, a husband, it becomes so difficult to talk about Nemutanzhela because he was more than a lecturer to us. I came to University of Limpopo in 2012. He was our lecturer for local government. As they said, he was very strict, and as in class we were 110, I was not aware that we referred to him as Nemu. So don't be surprised when I say Nemu, because that's how we called him. So there was this other time I was late for class. I think it was the Wednesday class. I was 5 minutes late, and like the Adipo said, that you would not just enter his class and sit down. You had to answer why you were late. And he would say, you've been bitten by a tsetse fly, that's why you're sleeping and all that. So I couldn't just go in class. Then I went back to my room. Come Monday, 7:30, when I got in class, the first thing before he taught us, he was like, where were you on Wednesday? I was like, hey, sir, how did you notice that I was not in class? Then it was from that moment where we got to be close, me and him. I remember from there, he would invite me to invigilate honors students. And by then I was doing first year class, and I would be so inspired seeing the postgraduate students there at DSU and also those who were before us. But then at the same time, our relationship became more of a daughter and a father. I remember came back from the retreat, he would come back with those small lotions, soaps and all that, and be like, this is for you. And I was like, oh, thank you. And that was so special to us. So Nemutanzhela was a great man. He loved his family. His car was personalized Unamudi, and us being Bapedi, we thought it was translated to Unalumudi. It was only at his burial where I learned that it was his kids' name, Unarine and Mutinda. But I was like, still, it made sense because he loved his family. So like Penelope said that Nemu would show up for his people. When I got married in 2014, Nemu drove all the way with the likes of Dr. Manyaga and other lecturers. They also attended the wedding. Then life happened again in 2022. Nemu came specially to see me and comfort me and all that. And we never lost touch. So on a yearly basis, on his birthday, I would wish him a birthday. But then this year, I wished him a birthday and there was one tick. I was like, maybe he lost his phone. Then in August, early August, I went to Venda to collect data. So when I was there, I tried to call all his numbers. I couldn't reach him until I reached out to his son and I asked him, where is your dad? I would love to see him. I'm in Venda. And he was like, oh, my dad is not feeling well. But by the time he gets better, then we will let you know, then you can come and see him. So then from there, we just kept on praying for him and believing that he will recover until on that Friday when he sent a message to say that our father is no more. Wow. I couldn't believe it. It was painful. It's still painful. But then at the end of the day, we give glory to God so that for the fact that our cross passed with Nemo. This year, I was appointed as a lecturer and I'm happening to teach local government. I remember after the first few sessions that I had with students, I was talking to my former classmates. I was telling them that, you know, when I was teaching the students, I could feel Nemu speaking through me because what he taught us back then, we still know everything. Because I see that my time is up. The last few words that I would love to live with the family is that the Bible says that the Lord is our comforter. May you please be comforted by his word. And in Psalm, it says that the Lord is close to those who are brokenhearted. May you find solace in God's word and always know that there is a community that loved Nemu and we will always love him. Thank you, Dr. Matebo.
Thanks very much for Mr. Lucas Nemutanzhela's former students. It must be said that indeed is leaving a legacy that many of us can attest to. Surely through the speeches, I'm just taking advantage of a minute that has not been used, we are celebrating a life of a man who had knowledge, a lot of it, a lot of knowledge, whether you are talking knowledge on the street or knowledge in the classroom. But one thing that I also learned about this great giant that we are celebrating tonight is that he was a man of principle. And that is why you would have heard his former students saying that you don't just get into class and get away with it. You don't just skip a test and that's it. But unlike those that have already spoken, I've never been asked a question as to why am I late? Because I remember this very morning early on Monday at 7:30. Then I went into his class maybe 10 minutes late. And those that know him, he would speak holding his head. And I was limping. And they knew that there was a freshers bash 2 nights before. I was limping. So he just stood there holding on his head. And then without asking me anything, he just said to the class, those are the consequences of a bash. Then I knew that I'm dealing with somebody who understands how life should be and how there should be a balance in between. With that said, colleagues, I would like to invite Mr. Lucas Nemutanzhela's former colleagues, who also happen to be his former students, Dr. Kujo Manyaga from the University of Mpumalanga. The floor is yours.
Program Director, Dr. Mateuda, the representatives of the Nemutanzhela family, friends, colleagues, and students, good evening. We are gathered here today on this virtual platform to celebrate and reflect on the life and the legacy of this great intellectual giant, Mr. Tshiphiri Lucas Nemutanzhela. We are also indebted to the leadership in unity of Professor Harry Munjezi, who is the chairperson of SAAPAM Limpopo chapter, for organizing this virtual memorial in honor of our colleague and friend and a teacher, Mr. Nemu, as we called him. Mr. Nemu's passing, colleagues, has indeed left an immense void, not only in the scientific and academic community, but also in the society in general. And I'm saying this because he was not just a teacher, and a great teacher for that matter. He was also an excellent political commentator on both national and media platforms, where his scholarly insight helped shape the profundity of our understanding of the evolution of our democratic system of governance. And he was sought after as an expert on matters relating to local governance. We will remember him for his imposing tone and eloquence on different media platforms such as Thobela FM, Palapala FM, and SABC TV. When I left, Mr. Nemutanzhela was a great mentor to me, and indeed to many of us. He took me by hand when I started my academic career, and he provided me with the much needed support and guidance that helped me to navigate the complexities of academia. He always wanted to see me succeed, and as a result, we became very, very close. When I left UL in 2016, he was always calling me every day to check whether I was coping, and he also offered me a lot of discipline-specific reading material from his library, and we had agreed that I was also going to come for more, but unfortunately, that has not happened. Almost half of the books that I owned in my mini library at home were donated by him. Mr. Nemutanzhela, as the other colleagues have also alluded, he was a family man. He loved his family deeply. And Mr. Nemutanzhela was also a God-fearing man and a devoted Christian with deep Christian values. He also encouraged everyone around him to involve and include God in everything they do. He will say, and I quote, "Look back and thank God. Look forward and trust God. Look within and find God." Close quote. I liked this quote very much, Dr. Mateula, to the extent that one day I posted the same quote because I was thinking about him and I was trying to reach him and I couldn't find him. So I posted this message that he once shared with me, and I only wrote, "Look back and thank God, and look forward and trust God." And he was the first person to view the status, and he immediately called and said, "What about God? What about within?" And then I realized that no, he suggested that I'm somehow misquoting. So to you, Dr. Mateula, Mr. Nwani, Professor Munjezi, Professor Judah, Dr. Mashamaite, Mr. Nemutanzhela cared about you guys deeply. He used to call us, for your information, RET forces of the Department of Public Administration in Teflon. When Mr. Nwani graduated her PhD, I think it was May last year, he sent me a message and said, with Mr. Nwani graduating her PhD, it means that all RET forces of the department now have PhDs. What a loss to the department. If you were all still around, the department will be having a full complement of staff members with PhDs. So, Mr. Nemutanzhela, to Mr. Nemutanzhela's colleagues and friends, family and loved ones, I offer my deepest condolences Indeed, your loss is immeasurable. Let us remember Mr. Nemutanzhela's wisdom, compassion, and a great sense of ingenuity. May his legacy inspire us all to strive for excellence, kindness, and understanding. My kids used to call him Rahulu because every time when he was home, he will always bring us what we call murembo. I don't know, it's a sweet potato. Mr. Mike Matamela will attest to that. Because when I first visited his village, I think it was, I can't remember if it was a funeral of his mother. When I left Venda, he gave me a bag full of murembo. And I told him ever since then that, hey, my kids love that murembo. Every time when he goes home, he will come with that murembo. So he was, as other colleagues have already indicated, he was a great man of honor. He was a disciplinarian, and he was a man of principle. He was a man of God. He was a caring mentor. He was a friend. He was a rahulu to my kids and to his grandchildren. He was everything. He was a funny man. He had this great sense of humor that when he tells a joke, even when he was not joking, you will just literally laugh and take it as a joke. Even when he was sad, you'll just find a way of cracking a joke that will make you feel all right. And indeed, it is such a great loss to Mr. Nemutanzhela. And in fact, when a few days before I heard of his passing, just to attest to the fact that he was an expert on local government, I was called by one of the municipalities. I think they were looking for someone to train councillors on matters of local governance. I suggested his name, but I sent him a text to check if he would be available because I was going to be attending a SAAPAM conference. And and then I could not get a reply. And I tried to call him. I couldn't get through to him until when Koketo told me that he is no more. May his soul rest in peace. I thank you.
Good evening, colleagues. Program Director, Dr. Mathebula, the Nemutanzhela family, former students, colleagues, the ED of SAAPAM, Professor John Molepo, the chairperson of SAAPAM Limpopo chapter, Professor Perry Munjezi. I greet you all and every other person, even those joined online. We are indeed gathered for a giant, a man with so much character, a man with so much passion, so much knowledge. Some of us, we are not only his colleagues, but his product, as Dr. Mathebula has indicated. Need I also add that Dr. Mathebula, Ogezo, Penelope are also my products. I met Nemutanzhela 2005 when I was doing my first year together with Dr. Rasodi Manyaga. He was a very caring person. You know, when you come to university, you're expecting to find lecturers who are distant, lecturers who just stood there and you are there to learn and nothing else. But he had time for each and every one of us in his way. And we all felt special one way or the other. You know, I remember one day in his class, he said, I was still a Baloy then. He said, Baloy, are you sleeping or praying? Because I was leaning down on my desk. And I'm like, no, sir, I'm in class. You cannot be in class and be in that position. It's either you're sleeping or praying. And that was one man who made sure that local government became our daily bread. We understood it so much so that when you miss the news, you are worried because you know he will ask something about what took place yesterday. He was forever in touch with the world. And he was a very professional someone. When I joined the University of Limpopo as a lecturer in 2010, he was one of the panelists. And I remember I just gave birth, and one of the questions he asked me, and he said, this is not part of the panel questions, but I want to check with you. Just that because you just gave birth, are you going to handle the pressure? And I got puzzled. You know, when you go to an interview, you are prepared for all these professional questions. And then boom, out of the blue, he's asking that. And I got puzzled. I said, don't worry, you will answer that. I know you will handle the pressure. I just wanted you to tell this panel that you will handle the pressure just like you handled me in first year. And when I came to office as a lecturer, he never made me feel like his product. I'm a young girl who needs to be pushed around or something along those lines. He treated me like his equal. He respected me. He would come to me for advice. We would share incidents. I remember one moment we had this one student who was very troublesome, and I went to his office to talk about the student. For you know, this child that's doing 1, 2, 3, 4. I was like, hey, wait. Do you know that she came and told me that her mother passed away? That's why she missed my test. I'm like, what? Yes. And next thing I met the mother. So you see, these troublesome kids, just write their names down. You will remember them when they need the marks and not to your office. And one of the former learners indeed indicated that he had a black book, you know, where he would put the marks and you will need them one day. And he will remember you as that one student who lied. And I can also attest to him as a supportive individual. When I left in 2014 to join UNISA, he came and congratulated me and told me that you're going to the biggest university. You know, every time when the world gets tough out there, just find a corner and tell God that I am still that young girl from that young university. He used to refer to University of Limpopo as a young university compared to UNISA. From that young university, and I want to make it. And indeed, that reassured me. He always told me that you are brave. You know, when the tension got tense, you were the first to step out. You are brave. I think most will realize he also took an early retirement because the work environment at times get tough. So you had to do a move that will save your soul. And he was one individual with a great sense of humor, family orientated, and he loved God. So I remember when he bought his car, I was still a student, and we asked him about the license plate. What does it mean? In his tone, you know, I think you can all remember his tone. He said, it means he has family. Now back off. and every time I see that car, regardless of whether it's his or not, that model of a car, like this car is for family man, you know? And he loved his family, and he worshipped the ground that the wife walked on. He referred to her as the center, you know, central office. So indeed, Nemutanzhela was a great man. And to his family, I would like to also leave you with the scripture that Gogetso have and Dipu have left you with, the Psalm 34, where it says, the Lord is near the brokenhearted and save the crushed in spirit. And Galatians 5, verse 13, is Nemutanzhela saying to us now, to you, my brothers and sisters, we were called to be free, but do not use your freedom to indulge in the flesh. Rather serve one another humbly in love. And indeed, he did serve us humbly in love. May his spirit continue resting in peace. I thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shamaite and Dr. Manyaka. such comforting words. Sometimes when people attest to things that they've experienced in life, it just evokes the emotions. But just like I said when we started, that this is about celebrating the life of a giant that Mr. Lucas Nemutanzhela was. Unfortunately, Dr. Manyaga, that those books that you thought you would go and take, it's unfortunate that I had already met with him, and the books are in my library now. If you need some, I don't know how we're going to resolve that. Let's welcome Professor MJ Mafonisa to represent the friends of Mr. Nemutanzhela.
Thank you, Program Director, for this opportunity you have presented to me. I will start by acknowledging the presence of Nemutanzhela family, notably Mr. Takalani Zex Nemutanzhela is in attendance, and also the Executive Director of SAAPAM, Professor Johnny Mulepo, and also the Chairperson of Limpopo SAAPAM chapter, Professor Hari Munjezi, the entire SAAPAM family, and all the students and friends who are in attendance today. The photo you see on the screen was captured in 1996 in an IASIA conference in Durban at the university, which was hosted by the University of Durban Westville, which is now part of UKZN. I first met Mr. Lucas Nemutanzhela in his early years as an academic, as a lecturer at the University of the North, now University of Limpopo. I worked with him closely in the ETDP space, that is education, training, and development. Educationally, Mr. Lucas Nemutanzhela and my twin brother, Mr. Mike Matamela, were instrumental in appointing me at the University of the North as a part-time lecturer, responsible for third-year public administration at the main campus, and also second-year public administration at the former Unigaza campus. It was in 1998. Lucas was our external examiner or moderator for undergraduate and honors courses here at the University of Venda. He submitted external reports and scripts timeously. Lucas was one of a group of facilitators for the training interventions for MJ Mafonisa Consulting, which were commissioned by National Treasury, IACOM South Africa, LG CITA, and former Development Bank of Southern Africa, Svudindela Academy. I remember he was part of a group of facilitators who trained 64 Surrounded District Municipality municipal officials on a municipal finance management program for us. The training was commissioned by National Treasury and IACOM South Africa. It was for a period of 12 months. I will always cherish the moments we spent together. On a lighter note, I am going to speak this in context. When in 1991, when I worked for the University of, for Vista University Soweto campus, I had an experience similar to that of Mr. Nemutanzhela. I was in a class and I was unable to pronounce the word archive. I said archive, and then about 30 or 52 students laughed at me. It was a second year class. They laughed at me, and I asked why. One lady said, this word that you are pronouncing it incorrectly. It is not archive, it is archive. I struggled several times. I said archive, until one lady said, don't worry, sir, there is no professor of pronunciation. I was sharing this story with Lucas the other day, and he told me about a situation, a similar situation he experienced at the University of Limpopo. He was teaching first year 600 students. And then he said, in South Africa, we have got gaining problems. And then the 600 students started laughing. And then I asked why are you laughing? One lady said, it is not gaining problems, but it is genuine problems. So when, to me, you call Lucas Nemutanzhela, you normally say he is Lucas Tshiphiri Nemutanzhela, but to me, it's Lucas Tshiphiri Guinea Nemutanzhela. To Nemutanzhela family, before I go to Nemutanzhela family, I would like to say Mr. Nemutanzhela was a gentleman, he was a good listener, and he was also respectful. To Nemutanzhela family, I know you are spiritual people. Let me leave you with some very short scriptures. The first one is Psalm 39, verse 4 to 5. It reads, Lord, make me to know mine end and the measure of my days, what it is, that I may know how frail I am. And I know it is very difficult to cope when you are experiencing what you are experiencing now, the loss of a loved one. But I must say to you, Lucas is in a very good place. And if he was here, or, you know, it wouldn't have been good for God because it was his time to be taken up to heaven. Jesus Christ would say, do not cry for Lucas, Nemutanzhela. He has served his time. He has left a legacy. Cry for yourselves, your wives, your children, and also your parents. I thank you, Program Director.
Mr. Mike Matamela.
Good evening, Program Director, Dr. Professor Harry Mjezi, the Chairman of SAAPAM, the family of Nemutanzhela, the family of SAAPAM, my former students, colleagues, and all, I greet you. It is with very heavy heart from me to speak about my friend, Nemutanzhela. I'm glad that my twin brother, Professor Mafuni, has spoken at length, almost % of what I was going to say. And thank you so much, Prof. It is very difficult for me. Speak of a friend for over 38 years. I have met Lucas somewhere around 1986. I had just joined, both of us had just joined the civil service. I was a training officer, he was the auditor in the office of the Auditor General, just opposite the office of the Public Service Commission in 1986. That's when we met. And we have been friends since then. Lucas, to me, was not just a friend, he was more of a brother. He was more than a brother in actual fact. Lucas attended every function which I attended at my place in Venda. And I attended every function which he would invite me. Sometimes even when he would not invite me, I would be there. When one of my relatives passed on and we were called, the closest family members were called, and Lucas got in and everybody was surprised. They were asking, who is this guy? I said, he's my friend. And they asked, what does he want? Then he answered in his deep voice. He said, my job is to see who is not contributing positively. And from then, Lucas and me were inseparable. I want to speak as a friend. Like I said, we did honors together at the University of Venda, sat on the same desk. We compared notes during test and exam time. Well, you can call it benchmarking, but well, that is the experience me and Lucas had. When he went to Teflo, I think it was around 91, 92, he said to me, don't worry, I'm opening doors for you. And by the way, it was Lucas who told Professor Frazen, Charles Frazen, and Brian Botter, the dean at the University of the North in the 90s, early 90s, that I should join Teflo. I was never interviewed by the university. It was Lucas who told the dean and the head of department that I have a friend who can also teach public administration. And that is how I joined the University of the North, now University of Limpopo. To cut a long story short, we would differ on other issues, especially at the time when I was the head of department. But when we went to the meetings, whether it's a Senate meeting or any meeting where we would discuss the issues of the department, Lucas would sit next to me and defend me as if we have not been speaking to each other for the last 2 days. And that was Lucas. He was a very loyal friend, very meticulous in what he was doing, very detailed, and very consistent in anything he was doing. Lucas, if his parking was at Checkers, he would park at Checkers for the next 5 or 10 years. He would not change that parking lot. He would rather walk the entire town. But his parking, I know it. When I want to see Lucas and I don't see him around, I will drive to Checkers. If he's not around Mankweng, then I will find his car parked there. That is how consistent Lucas was. I enjoyed a lot from Lucas. Lucas would advise me on almost any issue. He would tell me, by the way, let me just say this. When he got married, I was the first to be told about the lady whom Lucas got. He just came to me and said, hey, Mike, Ndawana. And he didn't explain further what is it that he got. I had to figure out what is it that Lucas got. And indeed, I discovered that Lucas got a wife. And even when the first daughter was born, Chanduko, Lucas would tell me whether it was Puru, Unamudi, Una Mudinda. You know, I always talk of Unamudi because you know those two names of his boys. He loved his family a lot. He would share things that really made him happy. And I'm glad that Zakaria, whom we always called Mufunzi, know about this. Lucas loved his family a lot. He spoke a lot about his children, his brothers, his sisters, siblings, relatives, including neighbors. I got to know about Professor Mutupe, the one who passed on at Medunsa. May his soul rest in peace. Through Lucas. Lucas was loved by his neighbors. He was loved by his community. He was loved by lots and lots of people. He was a very quiet person. He didn't like trouble. How I came to know about Lucas shying away from trouble was one day when he came to me and said, we had a very bright student, extremely bright student. Lucas said to me, hey, Mike, I have a student who gets marks more than normal. I said, what do you mean by more than normal? He said, his marks are unusual. I said, what do you mean? He said, no, he's getting 80s and 90s. Then we go to Professor Fraser and requested that he be promoted to second year. He was doing first year, this student. Thank God the student is a professor today. And for the rest of people to know, the young man was Sam Koma. Prof. Fraser indicated to us, he said, the university does not have a system, procedure, or method of promoting exceptionally gifted students. And right there in the office, Lucas just said to Prof that if he was white, he would be going straight to second year. He stood up, then he said, Mike, Kartuwe. Then we left. And there was a guy who was also from home, Sam Matiki was also part of the gang. We were friends. And then he said to me, do you know that every time there's a problem, they would call Lucas and ask him. Then Sam asked me, why are they not asking? Why are they asking Lucas and not us? Then he said, Lucas just, at that time, Lucas just stood up and then he said, Mense met groot koppe is nie altyd slim nie. And that was how Lucas would respond, but a very, very wise person, I must say. I have learned a lot as a friend from him. And as a colleague, there's a lot I can take 2-3 more days to talk about Lucas. But in the interest of time, let me say, I am actually running short of words to express how deeply hurt I am. Lucas was a great brother to me. And I'm glad that Mayor Chanduko all the children for Zakaria, they know about this. And it's a great loss, not just a loss to me, a great loss to our area, a great loss to the Republic. As I travel also outside our country, in areas such as Botswana, Zimbabwe, I meet some of the students who were also studying at the University of Limpopo in the early 90s. And they asked me about Lucas. And, I always say, he is still there. I'm glad the program director alluded to this, that he would always put his hand on his head, and the entire 2 periods would go with his hand on the head, lecturing. And it's a great loss indeed. I'm really, really, for me, I'm still really trying to pick up myself. I hope all of us will take the baton and continue to do what he loved to do best, teaching with passion. He was a great lecturer with passion, who had an interest of his students at heart. Yes, Dr. Manyaka was very right. When his mother passed on, a group of students came and visited us there in Venda. And Lucas just got out and said, let's make sure that these students eat before they go back. And that was Lucas. He was selfless, a man with principles, a man. We're talking about men with principles. I do not have time, but I was going to share how one of the students wanted, one day, a student came with a bag full of money and put it on the table of Lucas. And he wanted Lucas to change the mark, and Lucas did not change it. And it was at the time when we were running a program on transport management. And indeed, Lucas is a giant. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much to the friends. Without any further waste of time, I would like to call upon Professor Nemutanzhela to represent the SAAPAM family. Prof, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Program Director Dr. Matebula. Thank you to the Executive Director of SAAPAM, Professor John Molepo, to colleagues who spoke, Dr. Manyaka, Dr. Mashamaite, and the friends, Dr. Mr. Mike Matamela and Professor Mpwaphetu Mafunisa, as well as to the students who were taught by Mr. Nemutanzhela. I got to know or met Mr. Nemutanzhela in 2013 when I joined the University of Limpopo, and saw him for the very first time. I used to hear his voice on radio, but I had not met him physically. So I met him for the very first time in 2013. And fortunately, his office was just next to mine. And we got to come to my office regularly to advise this young man that has just joined the department. He used to come regularly, advise me on how to approach this academic life.
just joined because I was coming from government at the time. And he was a father figure. He advised us on what to do and what not to do. And when I think of that moment, I really felt at pain to hear that Mr. Nemutanzhela is no more. But I also admire the fact that whenever we, as young academics, when you make mistakes there and there, when you do things the way that it's not supposed to be done, you will advise us as an elder in the department. And but also, as I said, because of the fact that his office was there next to mine. But we appreciate the role that he has played, because he has produced so many academics. He has produced so many practitioners in the public service or in the public sector in general, because looking at the fact that he has been in the University of Limpopo since the early 90s, the contribution that he has made is immense, and that we really appreciate. And there are so many people that he has produced, as I said, in SAAPAM family, and we wish to express our gratitude to him as an individual, but to his family that has offered a son that came to the University of Limpopo many years ago, and as I said, produced so many academics and practitioners. And I will not want to waste much time, but we want to say that he has shown us as young academics that it's possible and it's doable, and will want to follow in his path that he has always endeavored to. So we thank you, and we thank you everyone who's here to say that everyone came to gather in this platform to honor the man who everyone else, judging by everyone who spoke, he has played a positive contribution in their lives and in the lives of many others who are not in this platform. We wish to thank him very much and thank everyone who has attended in this platform. Thank you, Program Director. Without much time, I thank you, and back to you.
Thanks very much, Professor Munjeli. And must be said that I must also extend my sincere gratitude. You had this idea and you drove it, and I guess you don't stop here. Those people that deserve to be honored, we remember them and we gather in their memory. So thanks a lot, Prof. Mjezi. I wish we can all learn and do better, so that one day we are also remembered for the good and positive contributions that you would have made in other people's life. Thanks a lot, Prof. Mjezi, and may God give you strength to continue to drive this ship, particularly as the chairperson of SAAPAM. There's a special request, ladies and gentlemen, that I cannot ignore. The Nemutanzhela family has requested that instead of Zakaria Nemutanzhela representing the family in the 10 minutes allocated to them, they would rather break it apart and share those minutes, just to at least have something to say in memory of their family member, the father, the friend and uncle, and every other thing that one may think of. We did hear from the tributes that Mr. Nemutanzhela was a family man, and therefore I will allow Mr. Zakaria Nemutanzhela to have his weight in these 5 minutes allocated. Then the son of Mr. Nemutanzhela Mudinda has also requested respectfully that he also be given an opportunity to have a word. I will not get in between the speakers. Once Mr. Zakaria Nemutanzhela has done his part, Mudinda will follow in that order. Thanks a lot.
But Zakaria, I think your mic is muted, and you respectfully, if possible, also show the video for the benefit of the media platforms that we are broadcasting on.
Thank you. Thank you. Am I audible?
Very loud and clear, Mr. Nemutanzhela. You may proceed.
Thank you so much. I would like to take this opportunity and thank the organizers of this memorial service. I never thought it would be such a big thing. I really would like to send my gratitude for the way things have panned out. As a family, I wouldn't repeat that we are devastated by the passing on of our brother, father, and our family man, as we used to take him. But rather, I would like to say to you, we take solace in the fact that he was a man who loved his God, and we believe he is now in the bosom of Abraham. We were born as a family of 7 in our family. The firstborn was born in 1945, and the secondborn was born in 1950. The thirdborn was born in 1955. Maybe before I should continue, I should say we believe we were born by very intelligent parents. Because if you can check the gap between 1945 and 1950, 5 years, and between 1950 and 55 is 5 years. And then from 1955, then came Lucas in 1960. And that gap still continued of 5 years. So we just believe that we were born by intelligent parents, and I came, instead of coming in 1965, I came in 1966. And my 2 younger brothers came, the other one came in 1967, immediately after me, and the last one was born in 1970. Lucas, to us, because our father passed away in 1982 when I was still very young, to me, he was like a father. Because from a very early age, when he was 14 years old, he literally cried for me to go to school when I was in a place where going to school would be very difficult. And all the journey of schooling, he took me along primary school, secondary school, and also university. He was guiding me all the way up until I finished my degree. So Lucas leaves behind his beloved wife, Nancy, whom Mr. Matamela has indicated how they met at the University of Venda. And he left his four children, Chanduko, Furfedzani, Unarine, and Mudinda, whom I now hand over to talk on this memorial service. We so much loved him as a family. He lives behind our our sister who was born in 1950, like I said. He leaves behind myself and also our younger brother. Mudinda, you can take over.
Thank you so much, Kotsimnene. I trust that you can all hear me very well. I just want to start off by saying that as a family, we're extremely devastated by the loss of my father. For us as his children, it's been a horrible 3 weeks and counting. It's also been a horrible few months because he was very ill. I don't want to focus too much on the pain that we're feeling. I actually want to speak more to the life that my dad lived. It's so wonderful to be in this memorial service and to hear of all the wonderful things that my dad did in his work life. I knew him personally as his son. I didn't know a lot about his work life at the University of Limpopo and elsewhere. So it's very nice to hear from all of you. It's nice to see that many of you are now professors and you were taught by him. Many of you are now doctors and you were taught by him. It's very, very nice to see that. And as his son, I think I was in a lifelong classroom, so I think I'm also a doctor by virtue of you guys being doctors now. Yeah, it's really, really heartwarming to hear all the stories that you guys have about my father. It's nice to know that the love that he bestowed upon me as his son and upon us as his children, on his wife, that he was showing to you guys as well. My name is Mudinda, as mentioned. I'm his last born. My oldest sister's name is Chanduko, firstborn. Furu is his second daughter. My older brother, Unarine, is his third, and I'm his last. You would have heard that the car that you saw him drive written Unamudi. Someone said they thought it meant that he has a family. It also means that in Chivenda, Unamudi means he has a family, but it was a clever play of words that he used between my older brother's name and mine. My older brother's name is Unarine, Una for short, and my name is Mudinda, Mudi for short. And so he put those together and he put it on his number plate. Someone mentioned that my dad donated books to them. And I just want to talk a little bit about his love for books. Growing up, my dad read so many books. He read so many books, and to this day, he owned so many books. In our home right now is a big library. I was talking to my mom the other day. I'm like, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do with all these books? Because I'm pretty sure 1,000 to 2,000 books in shelves. He made a big collection of shelves just to keep all these many books that he liked to read. He'd wake up at 3 a.m. He loved to wake up at 3 a.m. and just read books. And he would write a lot of notes, and he loved to share information that he read. He loved to share the books that he had. And in a similar vein, I want to talk about his generosity. My father was a very, very, very generous man. It's not only books that he gave away anything. He would give away, when he became a farmer now, he would give away vegetables to people for free. Yes, he was trying to run a business, but he would always give vegetables to his church mates. He would give his vegetables to his friends and neighbors and all everyone he came across. He'd like to say, hey, I planted this, go ahead and have some spinach or muchaini, moche, and all these traditional vegetables that he would farm. He was a very, very, very generous man. My dad loved politics. He loved to talk about politics. It is so nice to hear the stories that you guys have shared of him being a lecturer for public administration. It's a passion that he had. It was not just a job that he did. It was definitely not just a job that he did. It's a passion that he had. And from a very young age, I could tell that he loved politics. He would speak on the radio, community radio, since I was born. I'd just hear him. It was very interesting when I was young because he'd be speaking in the living, and then in the other room, everyone else is listening to him on the radio. I'm like, oh, my dad speaks on the radio sometimes. I had no idea what he was talking about because I was very young at the time. But as I continued to grow, I learned that he's a political analyst in his spare time, and it's something that he likes to do. I didn't only learn that because he did it on radio, but because of the conversations that we'd have. From a very young age, he had high expectations of me to know a lot of things about politics, about the government, and about all those sorts of things. And it would annoy me so much when I was young, because he would ask me, who's the minister of this? And I'd be like, I don't know. And he'd say, you're very ignorant. He loved to say that you're very ignorant if you don't know something. And this is just the spirit that he had of instilling education and learning into us as his children. He loved education so much. He inspired all of us as his kids to get educated. He inspired his family's kids, everyone around him. He inspired them to get education. And as I grew, I began to learn where that came from. My dad comes from very humble beginnings. In fact, I think humble beginnings it's an understatement. My dad comes from poverty. He grew up extremely poor. My uncle would have spoken more about it, but he said he was feeling a bit emotional to speak for long. But they did not have much growing up. They were in the villages of the villages, and my dad picked up education as a way to get out of that. And he got educated, sometimes failing, but getting up again until he became a person who holds such a renowned position such as being a lecturer at the University of Limpopo. And that obviously made things much better for us as his children. And I feel extremely grateful and extremely privileged to be his son, to have gone to the schools that I went to have gotten an education like I did. I feel extremely privileged to have been my father's son. And I'm also so grateful that it's not an impact that he had just on his family, but on all of you guys as well. My dad loved education. There's nothing that made him happier than seeing the people around him getting educated. And I'll speak about my graduation a little bit towards the end and what that meant for him and for me. I didn't know that he called my mom central government. So I'm very happy to have been a part of this service and learned that. And she's very happy to know that as well, that she was called central government. I could go on and on to talk about my dad. Maybe let me talk about something someone mentioned was his ringtone, and how every time it would ring, it would say, Vatanjera, 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 Lucas. You know, when he had that ringtone when I was younger, like in middle school and high school, when I was with my friends and it would ring, it was highly embarrassing, as you can imagine. My friends, it was not so cool that his voice note, his ringtone was a ringtone like that. So that was also just a very, very funny thing that he loved to do. And with every phone that he got, if he got a new phone, he wanted to make that recording and have that as a ringtone every single time. I'm so grateful to all of you once again. I wish I could hear that ringtone one more time. I'm deeply in pain, and we are all deeply in pain. We're hurt by the loss of such a giant. We're really devastated, and I must say that I was not expecting something like this to happen this year at all. This year, for me personally, was supposed to be a very, very good year because I finished my degree at the University of Cape Town last year, and my dad saw me through that degree. He would do anything that had to be done. He would pay for anything that had to be paid for, as long as it had to do with my education. And that's just the kind of father that he was. And that's just how much belief he had in us getting educated. So this year was supposed to be a purely happy year of celebrating that I, as his last born, have gotten my degree. I'm so grateful that he got to see that. Not only did he get to experience it, but he got to come to my graduation. And this was just 5 months ago. In March this year, he came down with my mom to watch me graduate. One of my sisters who also came down, and my dad was so happy. He was so happy, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you heard about that, because he shared pictures of my graduation with the whole world. My mom at some point was very annoyed at how he kept calling people to let them know that, oh, my last born has graduated, my last born, because my mom doesn't like being in the limelight or anything like that. But I think we could all see that it was just a moment of pride for him. He was very proud of me as his son for having completed a degree, and that's why he was telling everybody that he could tell. In March this year, he came down and he was very happy. Every 2 seconds, he'd just look at me and smile. He was very happy that that I had graduated, and not in a million years did I think that just a couple of months after that, he would fall very ill, and that it would be the last 3 months that we have with him. He fell quite ill, and we went up and down different hospitals trying to get him the help that he needed. But unfortunately, the will of God prevailed, and he is no more. We are definitely still grieving and mourning. And the pain that we're feeling, we know that you guys are feeling as well, because you got to experience him as a lecturer, as a colleague, as a friend. I just want to thank all of you guys for the parts that you've played in my father's life. Thank you for even just being a student. Thank you for being his colleague. Thank you for being his friends. Prof. Mafunisa and Nemutanzhela, I'm really grateful for the role you guys have played in my father's life. Prof. Nemutanzhela was here at graduation as well, and I remember him coming to see us, and he would tell me that we shouldn't, because wherever we needed to go somewhere, he wanted to come and fetch his friend himself. He wanted to drive from, and we were in a part of Cape Town that is very far from where he is, but he wanted to drive from home just to come and fetch him. He said, I don't want him in an Uber. I want to transport him myself everywhere that I go, because of the role that he felt my dad played in his life as well. So thank you so much for being his friends and for loving him. He loved you guys very much as well. Yeah, I just will share a couple of pictures that I took this year. Second. These are just fortunately pictures that I get to keep in loving memory of my father. And may his soul rest in eternal peace. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mudinda, for such warming words. Let me declare that it's not only his books, that some of them I had gained through our interactions. When my confidence levels were low and I started to analyze politics for our national Xitsonga radio, he did not know. And in fact, I was not honest with him that I was analyzing politics in radio. So whenever there was a topic, I would call him and pretend to be asking him questions that I would foresaw that they would be asked in an interview. It was after some time, once my confidence levels were up there, that I told him that I was using you for these interviews, and now my confidence levels are higher. And I appreciate that. And that's one thing that I loved about the man. But if there's one advice that I should give, particularly to his son Mudinda, don't even think about those books. Don't ask mommy where you must throw the books or what you must do about them. I think that is the best legacy that you can ever have. Or open a library in his memory, if possible. There's small space at home, open a library, and that serves as your legacy going into the future. I will not come again to the podium. Thanks for being a lovely audience, a warm one. And I take this opportunity, and that would be the end of the session, to welcome Professor Armukonza to represent both SAAPAM and the Tshwane University of Technology with a word of thanks. Prof, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Program Director, Dr. Matebula, the SAAPAM leadership. I'm trying to get the video, but it's not, technology is not being kind to me. Nevertheless, I am going to proceed. I've been asked to thank everyone who has contributed to the success of tonight's event. I must confess, Program Director, that I never had the privilege of knowing Mr. Nemutanzhela personally during his lifetime. However, I got to meet him through the people that he produced and the people that he interacted with. I'm talking here of the likes of Dr. Manyaka, Dr. Matebula, Dr. Mashamaite, Dr. Zita, Professor Nkuna, and so forth. Before I do what you have asked me to do, I've been listening from the start of the program, and I was saying to myself, I wouldn't mind spending the whole night listening to such original and beautiful stories about how well Mr. Nemutanzhela lived his life. I got just 4 simple lessons that I picked from the life of the men that I did not get the opportunity to meet in life. Number 1, I learned that a man needs to have a family and friends. In other words, a man needs a social life. Number 2, I learned that men must endeavor to have a job. In other words, the men must try to have a profession that he then excel in and become known for. Number 3, a man must believe in something. In other words, a man must have some kind of a religious life. Whatever that you believe in is not the issue, but at least you need to believe in something. We heard how Mr. Nemutanzhela was a Christian man. Lastly, in terms of the lessons, and very critical, a man must endeavor to have a good heart. In other words, a man must have humanity. We heard from speaker after speaker all these things coming out. And you listen and you ask yourself some questions. How do I become a better professional? How do I become a better family man? How do I become a better human being? Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of SAAPAM, allow me to say thank you to all of you for making time to be here tonight to celebrate a man who was not only a member of SAAPAM, but produced a number of luminaries that we now have as leaders in SAAPAM. He has produced students, he has produced academics, he has produced public servants, and we can only say thank you. To the Nemutanzhela family and their friends, let us take solace in the knowledge that the man has left a legacy. Whilst he may be gone, Mr. Nemutanzhela continued to live in those that he nurtured, fomented, and also in his writings. I took a simple search on Google Scholar, and I found two very interesting articles that he wrote. The first one he wrote with Dr. Manyaka, and it's entitled Reinforcing Accountability in the South African Public Service. The second one he wrote with Professor Nkuna, and it's entitled Locating the Role of Service Delivery Within Powers and Functions of Local Government in South Africa. So I am saying with these words, these final words, thank you to the Nemutanzhela family for producing such a wonderful person who has given us a legacy that we'll continue to live with. Thank you.